Hello, everyone. Welcome to Believe in Bengal podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Solomon Wilcots, and it's that curious time of year as the Cincinnati Bengals, as of today, time of this recording, they have wrapped up the mandatory portion of their mini camp. Their head coach, Zack Taylor, says that he cut the mandatory mini camp short a few days because he felt like the work was all done. He felt like the team is in a good mindset and good frame of mind. So now they will be free until everyone's set to return for their July training camp. So what have the Cincinnati Bengals accomplished this offseason? I think they've accomplished a lot, by the way. I think they've gone out, particularly at the level of the front office, and they have done things that they have never done before. To trade a top 10 pick for a known and proven force multiplier that is sexy Dexter Lawrence. To me, that is a seismic move made by the Cincinnati Bengals front office. So kudos to them for doing something that they quite frankly had never done before. And I think in order to leapfrog the competition, sometimes you got to do things that you have not done before. You've got to change the way that you do things. If you want to bring about a different outcome, then maybe your process needs to change. What is the old saying? You're just going to keep getting the same thing if you keep doing the same thing. And the Cincinnati Bengals are willing to do something differently to bring about a different outcome. And hopefully that's chasing a championship. That's winning a Super Bowl for the Cincinnati Bengals. I want to start by at least talking about the way that Joe Burrow has approached this offseason. Every time I look at him, the guy looks more ripped. He looks bigger, stronger than before. And I know people are going to talk about some of the missed games. Look, I think injuries in our league, it's not something that happens to a few players. It happens to every player. This is a career and a game and a sport where it's 100% injury. 100%. There's no player that gets to play an NFL career and not have to overcome some form of injury, not have to have some form of surgery. Even if you were fortunate enough not to miss any games, you'd be surprised how much athletes are having to do during the offseason. I can't tell you how many players will say, yeah, I've had to have off-season surgery to clean this up or to repair this or for whatever reason. And they're fortunate if they haven't missed any games. And we know Joe Burrow's missed, 22 games over the course of really 3 of his 6 seasons. It's sort of every other year. In 2020, he missed 6 games. And then 2023, he missed 7 games. 2025, he missed 9 games. It's the odd number years. Good thing for us, we're going into an even number year this year in 2026, where he's been able to play in every single game. And when we last saw him play, in every single game during the 2024 season, he put up MVP-type numbers. Joe Burrow is an MVP caliber quarterback. He knows it. I think the team knows it. The league knows it. And that's why they're willing to hitch their brand to his brand. But I love the way that Joe Burrow came out after the new additions made this offseason. 4 new starters on defense, including the likes of Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, Boye Mafe, and Bryan Cook. You go out and sign 4 new starters on defense. You go out and get players who are force multipliers like a Dexter Lawrence. How can you not be impressed if you're Joe Burrow? And he even said it. Now it's up to him and the head coach, Zack Taylor, to go out and execute to bring home the championship. It's like he put the pressure solely on himself and the coach, of course. He did pull Zack Taylor in there with it. But I think that shows, for all the people who think that Joe's unhappy playing in Cincinnati, I think the opposite is true. What you saw him doing was putting himself in Zack, someone who he has a very strong relationship with. He knows that he and the coach are tied at the hip. And that's why he said, it's on me and the coach, me and Zack Taylor, to go out and execute. In other words, he believes that if those two guys are performing at the high level, that this offense is unstoppable. that this offense can perform with some of the best in the National Football League. And I'm going to go ahead and just say this, because I think this is so very important. Because I think Cincinnati Bengals fans need to appreciate who Zack Taylor is as a head coach. Yes, he was hired as a young head coach. Yes, this was his very first head coaching job of his career. But he hasn't disappointed. There were no growing pains. Year one in 2019, he still was playing with some other players. We know how bad the team was. And then in 2020, Joe Burrow's first year playing with a rookie quarterback. And then 2021, year three of under Zack Taylor, bam, you win the AFC title game. I think you beat Kansas City twice in the same season. That's right, beat Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid twice in the same season, and you go to a Super Bowl. Zack Taylor has had, I think, really, he's early in his coaching tenure, right? He's now entering his 8th season. But in his 7 years with this team, they posted a winning record in 4 of his 7 seasons. The first 2, we know what that was like. And then last year, obviously with Joe missing, 9 games, the team did not live up to expectation. And the defense was not playing in good shape or playing at a high level. But Zack, remember, has won back-to-back division titles in 2021 and 2022. He taken the team to back-to-back AFC title games. As a very young coach, I think you'd have to be pleased with what he's been able to do. Now, 2026 is going to be very significant. But do you know, over the last 5 years, the Cincinnati Bengals have ranked top 10 in scoring offense? Over the last 5 seasons combined, they've been a top 10 scoring offense. That is a testament to the talents of their offensive playmaker, their offensive play caller and designer in their head coach, Zack Taylor. Do you know they've scored 30 or more points in 16 games over the last 2 years? They've won a little bit more than half, 9-7 in those 16 games. I argue that they should have been maybe winning 90% of those games, if not every single one of them. But given the deficiencies on defense, they have not been able to capitalize on many of the games where the offense has tremendous output, but yet the defense did not play at a very high level, giving up more points than the offense could score. But whenever you have a play caller and a head coach who is your offensive coordinator, he's your play caller, he's the guy that's grooming the quarterback and grooming the offense and understanding how to get Ja'Marr Chase the ball more often. Zack has done a wonderful job. And you cannot complain with the way that he's been masterful in going up against some of the best head coaches in the NFL. When they played the Rams and Sean McVay, they beaten them. When they played Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, they beaten them. When they played the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, they beaten them. The top teams in the league, when the Bengals have played them, since having Zack Taylor and Joe Burrow, they've beaten them. So I think it's high time that Cincinnati recognize that we have a really good young head coach in Zack Taylor and start to appreciate him a little bit more for what he's doing particularly on the offensive side of the ball and what he's doing with our quarterback and the way that they transition from Joe Mixon to a Chase Brown, and all he's done in his young career is rush for over 1,000 yards each year. Close to 1,500 yards, all-purpose yards running and catching the football out of the backfield. Our offensive line, by the way, is improved. I think going into 2026, the best offensive line the Bengals have had since Joe Burrow's been the quarterback. Not even close. This offensive line is one to be praised as well. So I'm seeing some really good things, some maturity, some development under Zack Taylor, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Now, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Because when you count them, Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, B.J. Hill, Boye Mafe, Miles Murphy, Shemar Stewart, Cassius Howell, T.J. Slayton, I haven't even talked about Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson. 10 deep on the defensive line. It's pretty good. High draft picks, high signed free agents. You're talking 10-man rotation on the Bengals defensive line. I'm keeping all 10 of them on the team. You got to have a rotation. You got to have pass rushers. You got to have guys who can hold the point. And I believe, I don't care who we start on the inside, because I think B.J. Hill is a starter next to Dexter Lawrence. And in that rotation, obviously, you got Jonathan Allen, who is a premier starter. He's been a starter every year since he's been in the league. And then T.J. Slayton. You're talking 4 stud interior defensive linemen, and you haven't even gotten to the young guys in Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson. So that's 6 deep just on the interior of the defensive line with high young draft picks to provide quality depth. And then if you look on the edge, where you have a Boye Mafe, Shemar Stewart, Cassius Howell, Miles Murphy, we've got some really good rush ends. You got 4 guys to go with the 6 interior guys. That's 10 deep on the defensive line. Cincinnati Bengals should be much improved defensively because we're much better on the defensive line. I'm going to save another time to talk about the off-ball linebackers because I want to talk a little bit about our secondary, particularly at the safety position, where we all know we needed to improve drastically. I like Jordan Battle. Jordan can be better in space, particularly on tackling, but the guy's got a really good sense for ball awareness, route recognition. He's a great communicator on the back end. He's never caught out of position in coverage, and so he's just continued to get better. But Kyle Duggar and Bryan Cook, mainly Bryan Cook, has one of the highest tackle rates for any safety in the NFL over his 4-year career, and had the lowest missed tackle rate of any safety in the NFL since he's come into the NFL. This is a guy who's played in a lot of big-time games, won in a lot of games with the Kansas City Chiefs, and is a multiple Super Bowl winner. Got to give him a lot of credit, and he knows how to tackle, knows how to play ball. So Kyle Duggar, Jordan Battle, and obviously Bryan Cook bring experience. You got Jordan Battle going into his 4th year. You have Bryan Cook going into his 5th year. Kyle Duggar going into his 7th season. Remember, he's a former first-round pick for the New England Patriots. This dude can hit. He can tackle. He's a big body safety who can get people on the ground. That's going to be huge for us. Our tackling is going to be much improved because we have a better defensive line. With that said, we got to hold up on the outside at corner. I like Dax Hill. I like DJ Turner as our 2 starting corners outside. We got competition at the nickel spot. I know Jalen Davis has the experience, but I can tell you right now, Josh Newton is a guy that I really like. And you may have seen it. He recently got a real close pick off of Joe Burrow in practice. Everybody gets concerned if Joe throws an interception in practice, but he is human. And the guys that he's going up against are no slouch either. And Josh Newton is a really good player who's just gotten better year after year after year. Going into his 3rd season now with the Bengals on the back end, I think he's going to be competing for that starting job with Jalen Davis to be the starting nickel corner that will ultimately be the replacement for Mike Hilton, who was so good for so long playing in the Cincinnati Bengals secondary. So it's a Cincinnati Bengals defense that I expect to be much better because we're much better in our 10-man rotation on our defensive line and much better with the depth and the talent that we have in our secondary. I am 100% on board with Zack Taylor, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals for 2026. We are about to have a fun season, everyone. So don't forget to join us next time. This is the Believe in Bengal podcast presented by FanDuel. Once again, I'm your host, Solomon Wilcots. We'll see you next time, everyone.